The search for the Filipino physicians of distinction continues to honor the memory and legacy of our national hero, Dr. Jose P. Rizal.
One of the most intriguing of all issues of Jose Rizal was his alleged retraction, which tackled about his reversion to the Catholic faith and all other issues linked to it, such as his marriage to Josephine Bracken. That issue was claimed to be true by the Roman Catholic defenders but asserted to be deceptive by anti-retractionists. They claim that the retraction document is a pious fraud and forgery, but handwriting experts concluded a long time ago that it was genuine. These are some of the authors who believe that the alleged retraction of Rizal happened. The Jesuits played an important role in reinforcing Rizal's retraction, because a day before the latter's execution, Manila Archbishop Bernardino Nozaleda asked them to take care of Rizal's spiritual needs, one of which is Father Pio P., a Jesuit superior in the Philippines during the time Rizal was executed. He was involved in securing the retraction from Archbishop Nozaleda, as well as writing the shorter retraction template, which was the one Rizal copied and signed. According to an affidavit he issued in 1917, he accepted the task since he considered Rizal to be Ateneo Municipal High School's very distinguished and dear pupil. He sent the Jesuit priest Father Vicente Balaguer, Jose Villaclara, Estancilao March, Luis Visa, Federico Faura, and Miguel Sadera to Rizal's detention cell. He instructed them to persuade Rizal to retract his anti-Catholic teachings and his affiliation with the Masons, which are necessary demands needed to be completed before ministering the necessary sacraments.
Aside from Padre Pio, another testimony by Padre Balaguer, a Jesuit priest, claimed that he managed to persuade Rizal to denounce Masonry, return to the Catholic fold, and sign the so-called retraction letter. He wrote extensively about the events in Rizal's detention cell the day before he was executed in a letter he sent to Padre Pio in 1908. According to the affidavit, which was testified on August 8, 1917, he used a first-person pronoun which indicates that he was present and involved in the negotiation. In his affidavit, he wrote,
"Of all that has been narrated, I am positive, by personal knowledge. I have personally intervened and witnessed it myself, and I subscribed and confirmed it with an oath. And lest, perhaps, someone may think that I could not remember it with so many details. After 20 years, I testify that on the very day of Rizal's death, I wrote a very detailed account of everything. The original of this account I have preserved, and from it I have taken all the data of the present narration."
According to Padre Balaguer, as he arrived in Rizal's prison cell around 10 a.m., together with Padre Villaclara, their encounter with Rizal was followed by a debate on the supremacy of faith over reason and the dogmatic differences that divided Catholic Protestants. After a while, Padre Balaguer mentioned that Rizal softened a bit when he warned him that if he did not yield his mind and his reason for the sake of faith, he would soon appear for judgment before the Lord and would surely be damned, in which Rizal reflected upon as Padre Balaguer went to the Archbishop's palace and reported to their superiors what had transpired during their first meeting with Rizal. When he returned to the fort, he continued his discussion with Rizal until the national hero was finally convinced to retract. Padre Balaguer presented 2 templates of the retraction document and mentioned that Rizal found the first template unacceptable because the style did not reflect his personality. Thus, Padre Balaguer withdrew it and offered the shorter one, which was written by Padre Pio, in which Rizal didn't sign right away, since he was uncomfortable with some of the words that was stated on the template. He wanted to emphasize that Philippine Masonry was not hostile to Catholicism and that Masonry in London didn't require its members to renounce their faith. Thus, the Jesuits allowed Rizal to revise the retraction template and signed his final version. Padre Balaguer then handed it over to Padre Pio, who submitted it to Archbishop Bernardino Nozaleda. Such accounts are presented as primary sources, seeing that both priests have stated that they themselves have been involved with Rizal and the retraction process. Aside from these primary accounts, there are also people who truly believe that Rizal did indeed sign the retraction letter.
One of which is Gregorio Zaide, a Filipino historian, author, and politician from the town of Pagsanghan, Laguna, and was particularly known as Goyo. Gregorio Zaide affirms the authenticity of Rizal's retraction, even though Father Balaguer and Moreno's accounts expressed it in different terms, disapproving the claim that Rizal remained a Mason until he died, as supported by Moreno's context about the alleged retraction. According to Zaide, his claim is supported with Moreno's account. In agreement with Moreno, there were numerous events that occurred in Rizal's prison cell that would not have occurred not unless Rizal had been converted back to Catholicism. These include the celebration of the sacrament of matrimony, his confession, his attendance at the Mass, his request for a prayer book, and his act of venerating the Blessed Mother. Thus, all of these acts are closely associated with the Catholic faith.
Aside from Gregorio Zaide, another analysis by Dr. Rene Escalante, an associate professor at De La Salle University, teacher in UP Diliman, an article publisher in local and international journals, claimed that Rizal retracted even though Padre Balaguer and Moreno's accounts express it in different terms. This disproves the claim that Rizal remained a Mason until he died, as supported by Moreno's context about the retraction. Federico Moreno, the agent on guard of Rizal's cell, wrote in his report that he heard Rizal wrote a document called The Retraction. It was mentioned in his report that there were 2 Jesuit priests who entered Rizal's cell, along with 2 more men, Padre Villaclara, Padre March, and the colonial officials. But there was no Padre Balaguer who entered the cell. Thus, Moreno's account reduces Padre Balaguer's affidavit to a secondary source by insinuating that Padre Balaguer was not an eyewitness of Rizal's last 24 hours. Nevertheless, while Padre Balaguer may not have been physically present in Rizal's prison cell, the substance of his affidavit is the same as Moreno's report. Both reported that Rizal retracted, although they express it in different various terms.
Even with numerous accounts and evidences, there were still some skeptics that believed that Dr. Jose Rizal never retracted. These are those people. The first of these skeptics was Rafael Palma, a former senator and the 4th president of the University of the Philippines. His arguments were, first, nobody saw the original retraction made by Rizal. Second, when Rizal's family asked for the original copy of the retraction document, as well as a certificate of canonical marriage between Rizal and Josephine Bracken, both petitions were denied by the authorities. Third, Rizal's cadaver wasn't sent to his family that claimed it. This action defeats the Christian charity of respecting his burial. Fourth, no masses or funeral were held for Rizal. Fifth, Rizal was not buried in the Catholic cemetery of Paco. Sixth, there was no moral motive for Rizal to adjure his Masonic ideals and reconcile himself to the rites of the Catholic religion. Palma then closes his arguments with the claim that the Archbishop was only interested in the conversion for political motives, and the Jesuits thus lent themselves as his instruments. He further states in his analysis that the example of Rizal would have had great resonance within the country, and it was necessary to strengthen the falling prestige of the religion with this abjuration and retraction.
Analysis of Juan Gardonio Colas. Juan Colas opposed the idea that Rizal wrote a retraction letter, seeing that Rizal wasn't really a religious person himself. He believed that the retraction letter was possibly forged. According to Colas, all of the accounts of Father Balaguer and Father P claimed that Rizal willingly signed the retraction letter, and it's kind of a character for Rizal to do. However, he also mentioned that it was possibly a forgery, since there are people capable of forging handwriting even during those times. Thus, Juan Colas stated, quote, unquote, that retraction was out of character, and it is not in keeping with character and faith of Rizal, as well as inconsistent with his previous declarations of religious thought. Analysis of Ricardo Roque Pascual, PhD. Ricardo Pascual was given the permission by the Archbishop Nozaleda to examine the document and later concluded in his book, Rizal Beyond the Grave, that the documents presented was a forgery. The common rebuttal of this argument was either Father Balaguer or Father P had made errors in reproducing another copy of the original. The document Rizal Beyond the Grave showed comparisons of handwritings, textual criticism, as well on some notes on the psychological aspect of Jose Rizal's conversion. They measured equally the length and breadth of the physical conditions of what kind of paper was used of the discovered document. These are considered as genuine marks of authenticity as to the age of the paper, but that does not bear all the phases of the question. He also points out that both of the signatures of the witnesses were signed by the same men, and they indeed look alike. Pascual showed the minute measurements that the retraction diverges from the style of Rizal's other writings of that period. Therefore, he concluded that the letter was a forgery. Until today, the matter about Rizal's retraction remains controversial because both parties on different sides are associated with an organization that advocates moral values and the pursuit of truth. The pro-retraction faction is represented by the Jesuits, explicitly the Archbishop of Manila, and a few other Catholic hierarchy members. Being ordained priests, they are presumed to be truthful in their pronouncements. The opposing side is the camp of the Masonry members, an organization that promotes brotherhood, integrity, decency, and professionalism. However, the debate whether Rizal retracted back to Catholicism or not does not make him less of a hero. It does not devalue what he has done for the country and the Filipinos. Thus, Jose Rizal remains as a symbol of nationalism and patriotism to the Filipinos.
A formar! Carguen! Apunten! Consumatum est!